All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you once again. Today we have this very nice concept, and that is plane geometry 2. So we are going to treat this as a topic. Okay, yes, we are going to deal with everything that concerns this particular topic. This is one of the concepts that most of the senior high school students find so difficult. So we are going to try our best to see how we can help our students to get these concepts. All right, so we have plane geometry 1, which deals with angles, line segment, and all that. But in this concept, when we talk of plane geometry 2, we are dealing with circle geometry, that is circle theorem. All right, yes. So as I said, we are going to treat this as a whole topic, a whole concept. We are going to look at the theories of what circles. That's what we are going to do. So this one, it deals with properties. Now, my dear students, those of you who find it so difficult to answer questions on circle theorem, it's just that you have not mastered each of the properties. So before you be able to solve questions on this, you need to master the properties. Okay. Yes. So in this video, we are going to go through um, 8 different properties. Okay. And I know and I believe that by the end of the entire lesson, okay, you are going to find it so easy to answer questions on circle theory. All right. So these are the 8 aspects or 8 properties that we are going to look under circle theorem. All right. Yes. So my name is Evans. This is Mazris TV. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel, like and share the videos as well. So before we even look at these properties, let's recall all that we learned about parts of a circle, because it is very very important. Before you be able to answer questions on circle theorem, you should be able to know the parts. It is the parts that will be able to use to solve some of the questions. If you know the properties of the parts, then it becomes easy. So let's quickly but in this video we are going to use this material. Our material needed is going to be what we call a very nice software. We call it GeoGebra. That's what we are going to use to treat all these properties. Okay, yes. So as I take you through, we shall also look at how to use this. Okay, yes. So let's look at the properties of a circle, or let's look at the part of a circle. So we know that this is a circle. So let's identify the center. Every circle has what? A center. All right. Yes. So this is the center. Now, we know that we have this line drawn. The line drawn through the center from one point to another. Okay. Or a line drawn from one point to another through the center. What name is given to that line? Is called the diameter. The diameter. Okay. Yeah, so the diameter is a line drawn from one point to another through the center, and it divides the circle into two equal parts. Okay, it divides the circle into two equal parts. So once it divides the circle into two equal parts, we know that half of the circle is what we call what? The semicircle. Half of the circle is what we call semicircle. Now let's also identify this part, which is called what? The radius. The radius. Okay. So the radius, we are saying that the radius is what? Half of the diameter. Half of the diameter. So when you have half of the diameter, if you draw a line from the center to any point of the circumference of the circle, that line is what we call the radius, and it is half of the um, diameter. So take note of that. All right. Yes. Now let's look at the distance around the circle. What name is given to that, and it is called what? The circumference. Okay. Yes, that is the circumference. So the distance in plane geometry 1, we looked at what? Or mensuration. We can also talk about perimeter. When it comes to circle, we call it what? Circumference. The same as the perimeter. So take note of that. All right. Yes, that is good. Good. So that is the circumference. Now let's look at this uh, part also. So this is also called what? The arc. Okay, the arc. The arc is what it forms part of the circumference. Okay, so the number of arcs you get to join together to form the circle, that is the circumference. Okay, so the arc is also part of the circumference. Okay, yes, and then let's look at this line. This line is also called chord. Chord. What at all is a chord? So when you draw a line from one point of the circumference of the circle to another point of the circumference of the circle, that is called what? The chord. That is called the chord. Now, you should know that the chord can also be what? The diameter. Okay, so the diameter is a special name given to the chord because the diameter can also be drawn from one point to another. The chord is also drawn from one point of the circumference to another. So a diameter is a special name given to what? A chord. Okay, so the chord can also be diameter. But why do we say diameter? The chord can be called diameter once you realize that the line passes through the center and it divides the circle into two equal parts, then we say it is what? A diameter. Other than that, we'll call it what? A chord. Okay, yes, so take note of that. Then let's also um, look at this shaded region where the chord is. Okay, so this shaded region is also called what? Segment. Okay, segment. Yes, that is what? Segment. So take note of that. When we say segment, we are also talking about a region which is bounded by uh, the chord and the arc. Okay, a region bounded or an area bounded by the arc and the chord is also called segment. Then we also have the shaded part, which is also called what? A sector. A sector. So when we talk of a sector, we are talking about a region or an area bounded by or two radii. So when we have radius, when we have one, we call it radius. When we have two, we call it what? Radii. So the area or the region bounded by two radii and an arc is what we call the sector. So you can see it yourself. All right. Then we also have this line which touches what? One point at the circumference of the circle. And what name is given to that? We call it what? The tangent line. So a line that touches one point at the circumference of the circle is what we call what? A tangent line. And that line is always perpendicular to the radius. It is perpendicular to the radius. And you know that once it is perpendicular, then that means the angle that will form there, okay, will be what? 90 degrees. So take note of that. Okay, anytime you draw a tangent line, note that it is perpendicular to the radius. All right, yes. So let's move on. And then we also have one line which also what? Can cross what? The circle. It can intersect the circle at 2 points. Okay, yes, and that, what name is given to that? We also have it as secant. Secant. Yes, most of the time students get confused when it comes to the secant and the tangent line. Yes, they get confused. They mix them. They mix them. Okay, they do interchangeably. Okay, yes. So one thing you should take note is that for the tangent line, it just touches the circle at one particular point. Okay, but in the case of the secant, it intersects at two different points of the circle. The secant doesn't need to touch the circle at the point, but it needs to what? Cross the circle. It needs to intersect, okay, the circle at two different points at the circumference of the circle. That is the difference. So take note of this. All right. If that's the case, then once we are able to identify, these are the basic parts of the circle. So if we are able to identify these basic parts of the circle, then I think we can move on to go through our properties of circles. Okay, yes, so that is what we are going to look at. All right, yes, so let's look at the first property. All right, yes, we have angles at the center of a circle. So what does this property say? Angles at the center of um, a circle. So in this property, we are saying that the angle at the center of the circle created by two radii is twice the angle at the circumference of the circle. Yes. So if um, two radii, okay, create angle at the center, okay, yes, then it should be equal to twice of the angle it will create at what? Yes, at the circumference of the circle. Or you can also say that the angle a chord subtends at the center of a circle is twice the angle it subtends at the circumference of a circle. That's what we are talking about. Okay, so let's take our circle. Okay, let's say this is our circle. Now let's identify our center. This is our center and this is one line segment drawn from the center to a point at the circumference, and you know the name given to that. That is what the radius. Then we draw another radius, which is also a line segment drawn from the center to a point at the circumference. So these are the two radii. Now, this is the angle they form. When you draw these two radii, it forms an angle. So let's say we call this angle P. Now you want to know the angle it will also what create at the circumference. Okay, so we draw the same line segment, two line segments, or two, yes, chords. Okay, so you realize that that angle there we don't know, so we call it Q. So this is what the chord we are talking about. This line is the chord. Okay, yes, so you realize that the first angle, okay, the first two radii, they and the two chords are sharing with the same chord. Okay, once they are sharing the same chord, then we are saying that the angle at the center, which is P, should be equal to twice or two times the one at the circumference. That is what we are talking about. Okay, yes. So we can also draw it in this way. Okay, it can also be drawn in this way. Once you realize that both of them are sharing the same chord, then the one at the center should be equal to what? Two times of the one at the circumference. Okay, yeah, so let's take this as our example. Let's say we have this angle at the center as M. Let's look at the one at the circumference. So let's say if we have the circumference as 60 degrees, then what will be our M? Know that this property is saying that the angle uh, created by two radii at the center is equal to twice the one at the circumference, or the angle a chord subtends at the center of a circle is twice the angle it subtends at the circumference. So that is what we are talking about. Okay, yes, so if that is the case, then let's move on. Good. So it means that M should be equal to 60, 2 times 60 degrees. Okay, yes. And that is going to give us 120 or 120 degrees. So it means that to get M, twice of 60 gives us what? 120 degrees. Okay, now let's try another example. Let's say this time we know the one at the center and we don't know the one at the circumference. How do you know? Once you know that to get the one at the center, you must multiply 2 or twice of the one at the circumference gives us the one. Then how do you do it? It's just a matter of finding half. Okay, it's just a matter of finding half of that, because we all know that 2 and twice n gives us 130. Then to find n, I'll just divide both sides by 2. That means I'm finding half of 130, and that is going to give me what? My 65 degrees. Yes, that is it. So in this case, we are going to use our software to prove, to show. Okay, yes, so let's try and use our software. Yes, so as I said, we are going to use this software, and that is what GeoGebra software. That is what we can use to um, determine or prove that an angle, chord substance at the center of a circle is twice the one its substance at the circumference, or an angle created by two radii is twice the one it created at the circumference. So this is our GeoGebra software. Okay, we are going to use it too. So we'll find some time in the next video. We shall go through the various features of this very beautiful, nice software. Okay, yes. So this GeoGebra software, it is used to do a lot of mathematics, especially when it comes to geometry. Was it okay? Concept of what angles, triangles, and all that. Okay, so let's make it blank. Okay, yes. So let's clear the um the two vertical horizontal lines, and then we can make this blank like that. Yes, so because we are going to draw our circles. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, yes. So first of all, what we'll do is we are going to choose this one. Okay, so we draw a circle. So you click, drag, you drag to any convenient circle you like. You drag it like this, then you release it. Okay, so let's say this is our circle. This is our circle drawn. Good. Now we are going to choose line segment. Okay, yes, so we have line segment so that we can draw the angles. Okay, once we have here as the center, so the center is A, then we click on A and drag it to any point at the circumference. So we drop it. Yes, we have one line segment. Then we draw another one. Since we have one point named B, then we draw from A, we join it to what? B, so that we get this very nice. Okay, then let's also draw another one. So let's say these are the two radii, and then we draw another one, okay, to meet the other end, okay, other point as the circumference. Then we draw another one again. Yes, good. So this is what we have. Now we are going to create the angle, because I said we are going to prove whether it is true that the angle at the center is twice the one at the circumference. So this one will come here, then we click on this, we choose angle, then we are going to create an angle in anti-clockwise direction. So we click here, okay, move here to A, okay, we click here, then we come back to B. Then once we click B, the angle is formed. So it means that at the center, our angle formed is what? 105.08 degrees. So let's see if indeed it will be twice the one at the circumference. So we still come back here, okay, we click here, then we move up like this, and then we come down and click here. Good. Now you realize that we have the angle there, which is what, 52.52. So you can do your calculation and check whether indeed 52 twice of 52.54 gives us 105.08. Yes, indeed, it is true. So you can see that. Okay, very, very simple, very, very nice, very, very easy. Yes, that is good. So let's try and see. Yes, so you can see that it's very, very nice. Yes, if you check and do the calculation, you realize that yes, it is true. So this is proven. You see that this very nice software can also help us to do that. Yes, now let's try and see something here. Okay, so I'm going to um now let's say, let me move this from here to the other side. Let me come here whether it will change. So you realize that I have moved it to this point and it is still at 52.54. So it means that irrespective of where the circumference, wherever you draw the other angle, or you create the other angle, once they are sharing the same chord, or those angle at the center created by two radii, know that you are going to get the same thing. Let me move to the other side. Let me move to the other side here and see. So you see that even if you move here, you still have the same. So it doesn't change. So my dear student, whenever the question is given to you, just look at the concept. If you're okay with the concept, then you get the answer. So you can see a shape like this and you'll be wondering, because most of the time when we are teaching you, we may give you nice like this. Yes, they may see it in this form. Yes, so the moment they trace the question and maybe bring they decide to bring the moment we decide to bring it like this, good, then he's confused, knowing not knowing that it is the same property we are talking about. So that is how it is. Okay, if that's the case, then very nice. So we shall end here and continue next time. So in our next video, we are going to continue with the properties. So this is the first property. We shall take them one after the other and go through and see how this nice app is going to help us. All right. Yes. So my name is Evans. This is Mazris TV. I'm still a mathematics facilitator. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also get Mazris TV on TikTok. So if that's the case, then let's end here and continue next time. See you. Bye bye.